Welcome to episode 18. I've got little Louie with me this morning. Jack's driving the show. It's his first time in the health bunker, but he decided he didn't want to sit behind the camera. He wanted to sit in front of the camera. Good morning, Louie.
Very different.
Say good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody. We've just been going through what's healthy and what's not, haven't we, this morning?
Yeah.
We have. Right, you keep playing with the fake food. This is fake, by the way. There's no way I would have a sandwich or a McDonald's in the house. We've just been doing some lessons around what's healthy and what's not, haven't we? And what are these called? What are they?
Coconut.
Coconuts, good boy. Now, today's show, we're talking about coping with Corona. We have two amazing doctors on the line a little later. We've got Dr. Dan Maggs, a very good friend of mine, runs a website called Carb Dodging. He's very big on YouTube. On some of his videos, I've had over 500,000 people viewing his videos. And at the same time, he's an active GP out there in the community at the moment, helping with Corona. So we're going to get some frontline knowledge from Dr. Dan. And then later, we're joined by the brilliant Dr. Anna Symonds, and we're going to be talking to Anna about, what can we be doing with our children, what can we be doing with our parents, explaining what's going on, because a lot of confusion, a lot of obviously anxiety and so on. We're going to take on a slightly different strand to yesterday's anxiety show. It's how do we keep these chaps and our parents happy? If you're new to the show, we've got several purposes on the show. One is to educate and to help you, with the lockdown at the moment. We're all having to change our eating habits. How can we change them for the better? Because we really believe, and it seems to be across all the doctors and experts that I've been talking to on this show, that after social distancing, after washing your hands, the very next best thing we can all do is to eat real food. And then with our experts, our nutritionalists that come on the show, with the chefs that we have come on the show, what we're trying to do, of course, is show you that this is not what you should be eating, but we should be eating more of this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. You know more than your brother Jack over there already. He's 18 and he eats all the wrong stuff when he's at university, I think. Although he doesn't admit it, do you, Jack? Say good morning, Jack.
Morning.
And then the other purpose, of course, is this up here. Our food banks across the UK at the moment have lots of problems. They're working so hard day and night to put food onto the table of those that are in most need. But the problem we have at the moment is less food being donated into the food banks. And also the other problem is less volunteers able. They want to, but less volunteers able to work in those community centres to hand out the food. So the food banks really need our support more than ever. We're supporting the Trussell Trust. The Trussell Trust operate 1,200 food banks across the UK. So we're doing everything we can to really help them. If you can donate, either at Just Giving would be great, or over there, send a text, and that would be great. Why have you got the burger? Pick up something healthy. Pick up something healthy. What's healthy? What's healthy? What are you going to go for? A lemon. You like lemons? Full of vitamin C. Good lad. Absolutely well done indeed. Do keep your questions coming on on YouTube this morning. Keep your questions coming. That will be fantastic. Right. Let's do a quick competition. Every day we're giving you a healthy food. And somebody said to me yesterday, why have you not yet done any meat? I said, okay, well, let's do some meat today. So let's look at lamb. Because lamb is a really healthy food. It nearly always is organic anyway in the UK, because nearly always let it graze. So it's normally, grass fed like it should be, full of vitamins, full of minerals, great source of protein, great source of omega-3. And lamb, if you want inspiration on how to cook lamb, then head over to primalliving.com. We've got all the recipes from our recent cookbook, Primal Gourmet, uploaded for free right now, so you can have some inspiration of what to cook during lockdown. Why do you keep going for the not so healthy stuff? It's very interesting. There's a human experiment going on right now with my 4-year-old. Right, let's get Dr. Dan Maggs on the line, and let's ask Dr. Dan some questions. Keep your questions coming in if you can this morning on YouTube, live on YouTube. And Dr. Dan, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Steve. How are you? Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. It's all going well. Still staying safe at the moment, Steve.
Good man.
How are you guys?
We're okay. It's just different, isn't it? You know, it's really, really different. And I guess your job's turned very different as a GP out in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's been just this huge change in how we're working at the moment. I mean, so I typically, unlike a lot of GPs, I work mainly at weekends. So I work evening and weekend shifts. I do a lot of mobile visiting. So people who can't make it into the hospital or the surgery at a weekend, I go out and visit those. But I'm obviously still in regular contact with my GP friends who are working in surgeries and stuff. And there's just been this huge change in how we work. This huge upswing in video consultation. We're working out, we're obviously not having waiting rooms full of people. It's usually like the kind of normal social distancing outside of a surgery. Come into the surgery only if you're invited. So it's a huge change at the moment. And obviously we're having to be very, very cautious about the amount of time we spend face to face with people when we don't know whether, there's lots of people who are asymptomatic who are carrying this. And, obviously it's not something that I want to be getting myself if I can at all help it. And it's not something I want to be bringing home as well. So it's a huge change in just how we think about everything we do and how we think about how much do we actually need to be doing face-to-face with a patient when we could be working over the phone, over a video call. So a lot of what we're doing is I'm turning up to people's houses and sitting in the car on the phone to them outside, and I'll say, look, guys, I am, obviously with everything that's going on at the moment, we are trying to reduce the amount of face-to-face exposure, both from them potentially giving me something and me potentially giving them something. Hopefully not, of course. And so, we're doing as much as we can over the phone. And then I'm, getting the gown and the mask and everything on, going in and, doing the absolute minimum, doing the minimum investigations I need to actually get the answers I need to be able to give them the treatment they need. So, it's been a huge change in how we think about what we do in terms of medicine. Obviously, I spend a lot of time out in nursing homes and residential homes as well, which is, very big in the news at the moment because, and they're all working really, really hard to do their absolute best. And a big shout out to all of the nurses and carers who are working in those homes, all of the support staff, the cleaners, the people who are preparing the food, they're trying so hard, Steve, not to bring anything in themselves and also to protect their patients. And they're doing such a fantastic job, and it's such a difficult job to do at the moment. Very isolating because they're not being able to see people as well. So just spending huge amounts of time at work. And I know they're having difficulties getting supplies of food like we all have been. And so, it's an incredible challenge. And, we're just realizing just how deep this challenge goes, And
does it get more challenging for you as a GP as time goes on? We think we're going to have at least another 3 or 4 weeks of lockdown. Does it become more challenging the longer this goes on? Does it become less challenging as it almost becomes the norm?
Well, I think there's a part of it is this is the kind of the way we work at the moment. This is just how we do it. And, humans, we are very, very adaptable, really. And we'll change and do things in the way that is necessary. So, it is from that perspective that is very, very interesting. But I think a lot of the concerns, and this has been echoed in the daily briefings and stuff at the moment. So a couple of weeks ago, I went in on a Sunday morning to work, and I bumped into one of the medical consultants on call. So she used to be my boss. This lady, she's absolutely fantastic doctor, and she was saying to me, yes, we've got these patients in with the COVID-19 and stuff. Of course, we're separating them all on a different ward. but the rest of the hospital is quiet. Okay, so they've stopped the elective surgery, they've stopped all non-emergency procedures. Most of the outpatient clinics and stuff are being stopped. We're just maintaining the emergency care stuff and that, but we're just not seeing people turning up to the hospitals in the same numbers, the same, the suspected cancers, the suspected you're sure we're going to see a drop in the number of things like fractures because people aren't out playing sports. They're not out playing, doing dangerous stuff. They're not riding their jumping horses over gates and things like that could potentially have been dangerous. So, but they are very worried that people are avoiding hospitals because of the COVID-19 situation. And I think the message that I know the government's trying to get out, that I want to get out to anybody that's listening, is the NHS is still open for business. Yes. If you have a condition that you need treatment for, then you need to get treatment for it, because what they are seeing in the hospitals is that patients are coming in at the very last minute, presenting really, really late because they're trying to avoid going to the hospital as much as they can. And they're coming in a critically unwell condition. Yes. And the chances of surviving that are far, far less. So, a couple of weeks ago, the majority of what I was seeing was suspected COVID-19 patients. This weekend, our social distancing has become effective. I'm starting to see the cases pick back up of the people who would just normally need medical attention. People with urinary tract infection, people with chest infections that aren't COVID-19, because people are still going to get these infections, and people who are needing our services for other things. Okay, so definitely, a message to anybody who's watching is, if you are in need of medical care, don't be afraid to contact your doctors. They're not doing a lot of the routine work that we normally would be doing. We're not doing people's blood pressure checks and things like that. So there is capacity there to respond to emergency services. I've got to say, one of the greatest things about the NHS, Steve, is this is incredible capacity to ramp up in a coordinated manner and build these Nightingale hospitals across the country. Fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Can you imagine outside of the virus, if somebody said you got to put up a hospital and all that red tape, it'd take 30 years to start from scratch. They have done absolutely incredible. And I guess there's that reluctancy with other illnesses at the moment to go in because you're worried about the virus. But just like you've said, I bet A&E is quieter than normal because less people driving, less car accidents, less sporting accidents. And therefore, if you're worried about going in because you think A&E is going to be full of people with COVID, look, if you've got something seriously wrong, you've got to go to hospital. You've got to call the emergency services because we saw we've seen that in the data, haven't we? We've seen that the death rate has gone up beyond the amount that people have got corona. For that very reason, people aren't taking other illnesses seriously. My wife's come down. My wife, come and take him away. My wife's saying, I can't come on screen. She hasn't put a face on yet, but that doesn't matter. Come on, take our little boy away. There you go. Let you have a lie-in this morning. How did my wife manage? Take the fake sandwich with you. There you go. There you go. How my wife took my son away without getting on screen, and I've got no idea. But that is the case, isn't it? The case is, if you've got something seriously wrong with you right now, you must do what you would normally do because, you just got to do it.
Yeah, and if you're worried that that's life-threatening, then 999, of course, is the way to go, as it always has been. If you don't know, then 111 is definitely the way to go, because 111 will often actually call ambulances for people. Okay, so we often see patients that have gone out and sent a paramedic out. 111 have the ability to send out. So, but obviously, if you're short of breath, you've got chest pain, all these kinds of stuff, you must call 999 in the way that you would normally. It's absolutely needs to happen. And just be reassured that there is a functioning health service out there, and that we need to be treating people for everything else that is not COVID-19.
Absolutely. Now, Dan, some quick fire questions before we go and ask people live on YouTube. These have been compiled by my team. So say, right, here we go. Firstly, can we cope as a nation with corona? Have we got this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Steve, it's a tragedy. It absolutely is a tragedy. But I've been keeping a close eye on everything that's happened, and I know the government's big response was in order to, hang on a second, I think I've got some noise in the background. There we go. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Perfect. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay.
Perfect.
Our ability to ramp up our NHS in order to make sure that everybody who needs intensive care, needs hospital care during this time gets it. So far, so good. The capacity that has been built, the spare capacity, even within the London hospitals, which have been the hardest hit, has been incredible. The ability that these Nightingale hospitals are only being partially used.
Yes.
And do you know what? Even if we only ever open them partially, it's still going to be a massive success that we are able to ramp up the service.
I think we've got to be so proud of everybody. I think we've got to be proud of the NHS. I think we've got to be proud of all the volunteers. I've actually, I'm I'm never a supporter or have anything bad to say about government, but right now I'm going to come off the fence and say, look, the speed to action, as myself being a businessman, I always criticize government and other things for being too slow to react for things. I think they've outperformed business leaders. I think they've been absolutely brilliant at what they've done. So I take my hat off. I think we can cope with it. I think as a nation, we should be very proud of everybody that's taken part. Next one. As a GP, are you seeing any recurring mistakes or poor mindsets people are adopting during this time?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd be very worried about the psychological burden that is going on with this. Okay, I think the statistics came out from the news and said that 15% of people in the UK really aren't coping very well with the whole lockdown thing. And I completely understand this, Steve. You've probably seen in the supermarket that some of the alcohol shelves have been very bare, and I think a lot of people, more or less the first few weeks and stuff, it was a little bit like, oh, we're at home, we don't know how long this is going to be, we may as well have a drink. And so I think there is going to be a burden off the back of this in terms of people developing bad coping mechanisms. So not doing not getting their regular exercise that they need to, even the once a day, and just sitting and drinking quite a lot. And I think there's always going to be people who have good coping strategies in these situations, and there's always going to be these people who have bad coping situations, and people who are struggling with those kind of things before this are going to be absolutely even more magnified and stuff. And I'm really lucky, we're really lucky, Steve, that we've got our families at home with us. We've got internet connections, we've got people to talk to, but there are people around who are just completely isolated at the moment because they can't even go out and can't have their normal social interaction. People who live alone and are having to effectively shield themselves from the population, and just the amount of worry.
So the advice there is, if you've got a friend that you think has been isolating, that maybe haven't had lots of phone calls, get on the phone, speak to your mates, go through your little black book. Who could you call today to make happy? We spoke to my Auntie Vera on the phone a couple of days ago, which we hadn't spoke to her for a couple of months. So think about others to try and stop damaging yourself by turning to maybe drink or other things to get through this. As a GP, what myths do you come up against and again and again with patients that send you crazy? What myths are there around this disease that maybe are driving you crazy, if any?
Just for your producer Jack, I'm getting a big feedback on your voice, Steve. I'm hearing twice, so I don't know if there's anything I can do about that, but I think the question was, is there any myths and stuff around? I think the 5G myth has been one that has been a little bit crazy. Even with these myths and stuff, it's the biological plausibility of a wireless radio mask actually having an impact with viral load and stuff is a little bit of a large leap, to say the least, to be honest. So I'm a little bit concerned about how amazingly big that rumor has got.
I don't know where I've been because I've not heard of that one. So
the 5G one, people have been burning down 5G radio masks, Steve.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they think that the 5G, the rollout of 5G has been linked to the spread of the coronavirus.
Okay. Oh, I'm not a technical
I'm surprised
person.
you missed that one. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're trying to not do too much news at the moment.
No, I think that's a very sensible one as well.
What strategies have you adopted, Dan, to get through this time yourself?
Okay, so I think the big one for us has been trying to keep to a regular routine in our household as well. Okay, making sure we're very lucky that the weather's been fantastic recently as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been making sure that we get out for a good long daily walk. Within the kind of the guidelines that we have been set, that we are keeping ourselves to a routine. Very, very glad that my gym has started doing online classes, and I'm now doing my normal 3 sessions a week online. That's been very, very good because I'm very, very bad. I'll hold my hands up and acknowledge I'm very bad at exercising when I've not got other people around me. Okay, I love the community aspect of exercise. So yeah, for the first couple of weeks, my exercise levels dropped off. So yeah, getting these things that you'd normally do, the normal patterns and routines, and adapting them to the life that we are currently facing in a way that works for you. But yeah, routine has been really, really important for us here. Getting into routine with our meals and everything like that, and just not letting it kind of get to you. Another thing, I think you touched on it, Steve, is not over consuming news. Yeah. Okay. I'm usually someone who consumes very, very little news, but the temptation has definitely been there to consume a lot more news recently, keeping an eye on death rates and new case rates and all this kind of stuff. And I suddenly realized there's no news here. We're in a really bad situation.
There is no news. You don't need the news. No. You don't need it. Turn it off.
We don't need the news to tell us that there's a bad situation.
There's nothing new, is there? So social distance, wash your hands, eat real food, tune into programs like this where we're trying to give new advice around, how to stay healthy. But other than that, turn off the news. All right, here's a question. Children, put your fingers in your ears. During this time, Dan, is it okay to still have sex?
I can't see any plausible reason why it's not, and I think this is a difficult one for people who are like younger adults who don't necessarily live with their partners, and they're being. I think the government advice was now's either the time you need to socially distance as per the guidelines, or you need to be actually. Put up or shut up and move in with them, basically. And so, I think it's really, really difficult. And I think this does have an implication for a certain subsection of the population who are, potentially, this has been a really bad timing for them when they've had that new relationship and all these kind of stuff. And but I think as long as it kind of fits in with the social distancing guidelines that we have, there should be absolutely no issue there, really. Okay, if you're within that same household anyway, then I don't think that should be problematic.
Thanks for answering that. Now I've got about 20 more here, but I'm just going to make this the last one. Then we're going to turn to the internet. Is the feedback okay now?
Yeah, it's fine. Perfect. Absolutely sorted. Well done, guys.
Well done, Jack. I like this question. Do you think how we see a doctor will change after Corona? For example, do you think we'll be more willing to have sort of distant online consultation rather than queuing up in the doctor's surgery to see our GPs?
I love this question, Steve. This is an absolutely fantastic question because it is a debate that myself and my colleagues have been having quite a lot over the last few days and weeks. Okay, so it's going to be, the question is, how long is our memory? Okay, because actually, there's a lot of good stuff that's coming in here. We've seen the rapid implementation of video calling, and absolutely, you need to come in to, these things are really high quality these days. The cameras on our phones are incredibly high quality. If you've got a skin rash, do you really need to be seen face to face about that skin rash? And I think it has called us to question how much do we actually need to see people face to face? Do we need to be sitting people in a waiting room, coughing and spluttering over each other, whilst our clinics run late and those waiting rooms gets busier? it's surely got to be a hotbed for transmission of other illnesses, cold and flus and things like that. GP waiting room, probably not a particularly healthy place. I know there has been a big push with GP surgeries to do like triage first, telephone appointment. They call it doctor first appointments over the phone. But I do hope that some of this is carried over into the future, because I think, we are starting to learn that it is beneficial, and surely you'd be loved to get on with your working day, your normal life, and just have a phone call from the doctor on here and say, oh, I've got this rash. I'm just going to, have a look at this rash, and then electronically send a prescription to your local pharmacy. I mean, it's potentially going to be a game changer for the NHS, and I think a cost saver as well.
Yeah, that's really, really good point.
Yeah, so I hope so, Steve.
I think it will. But your also point that you started there was really important. You said it depends how long our memory lasts.
Yeah.
Because we do tend to have quite short memory sometimes.
And I think if it's going to be easier to fall back into the old way of doing things, or is it going to be, and I think partly that depends on how long we go on with it, really, because if it carries on for a long time, these routines and habits will become ingrained.
Let's hope so. Right, lots of questions coming in. Sharma says, good morning, Steve and Dan. How can we boost our immune system while we're at home? Eat real foods is a good start. Cut down the carbohydrates. Swap them for real foods. Foods high in vitamin C. Get out in the sunshine. Get more vitamin D, because your body, although we can eat food rich in vitamin D, yes, we can supplement, but getting out in the sunshine while it's nice, without burning, of course, is a great way of building our immune system. Eating foods and supplementing with zinc has been proven to boost the immune system. So forget the word balanced diet, go for a nutritionally dense diet full of good, real whole foods. Try right now not to eat any packaged foods. Try and cut down the pasta, the rice, anything that's processed. Just get back to eating real food to boost the immune system. Any more to add on to that one, Dan?
Yeah, I think Anna's going to help us with this one as well. And that is that keeping our stress levels low, because we know when we get stressed, our immune systems drop, and you're more susceptible. If you've had a very, very stressful period at work, you're going to be more susceptible to catching those bugs that are going around at the moment. And so, definitely want to consider is keeping your stress levels under check. And I'm sure Dr. Simmons is going to help us with that one.
Excellent. Hi team. I love lamb. However, cancer treatment diet says no red meat. No lamb, no beef, no pork, no duck, only chicken and fish. And no farm salmon, only wild. So that's from Marvellous. Food advice, I'm taught by my doctor friends, and we'll ask Dan on this, but food advice is very different pre-cancer to post-cancer, and I don't think we can really answer anything post-cancer. Pre-cancer, there's no proof, evidence either way whether meat is good for us or bad for us. In fact, later today I'm talking to Dr. Sean Baker, who's eaten nothing but red meat for several years now and appears really healthy. It's the debate that's going to go on for the next 100 years, I think.
Absolutely. And, it's very different from saying what is right for the general population and what is right because of a specific cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with that one. I'm not an oncologist, and cancer treatment is a very, very specialist area. So there may be some particular reasons, really. But, but the advice regarding cutting down on red meat and saturated fat and all that kind of stuff, well, I think we'll leave that to Sean Baker, because he's going to give you the big rundown on that one, really. So but I completely agree that there's no evidence for that in terms of a general kind of healthy diet.
Thank you for that, Dan. Andrew Hunt says, any tips on preparing shirataki noodles? I've got some. Dan's brilliant chef. My tip is they on their own are a bit bland, but then all noodles are a bit bland on their own. Find your favorite flavorings. So if you like Thai food, put loads of fish sauce in, lemon sauce in. If you love Italian cooking, put loads of tomatoes and basil in. Really just find flavors that you like, because once you fill them with flavoring, they behave like regular noodles, but rather than be carbohydrate, they're just full of beneficial fiber. Have you ever tried cooking these, Dan? These
Steve,
noodles?
I bought a packet of them, a packet of 5 of them, little sachets of them, about 3 or 4 years ago. One thing I've realised about these is they have a shelf life, and you need to cook them within that time, because I didn't, and they completely turn to mush within the packet. So yeah, no, I've never got around to cooking with them. I know a lot of people who like them, and if you are really into things like ramen and stuff and want to be making those, if you go low carb and you really miss those kind of things, then yeah, they're a great option. I understand, but I haven't got any tips particularly for using those. I think people call them is it konjac as well?
Yes,
so they're konjac, shirataki, or glucomannan noodles. Yeah.
So konjac's the actual plant. It comes from the root of the plant. The actual, when it's all broken up into the fibrous material, is glucomannan. So glucomannan comes from the konjac plant, and then you can either have it in a supplement to help you lose weight because it fills you up. It sort of sets off leptin to tell the brain it's full. So you can either take them in a supplement, or they make these brilliant noodles that you're talking about, which I absolutely adore. So Andrew, just cut them with your favourite flavouring. Sarah said, seen people like Dr. Ken Berry talking about elderberry extracts as being helpful for the immune system, but it's not easily available in the UK. Don't want the syrup version. Is it more common in the USA? You know, I don't know the answer to that one, Sarah. I'm going to write that one down, because tomorrow's guest is going to... It says Patrick Holford, isn't it? I was just checking it was. Patrick Holford's on tomorrow, and he's a massive believer in elderberry extract. So I'm going to find out if they are available for you. Do you know anything there on that one, Dan?
No, and I think it's one of those things that, you know, if there was a small supply in kind of health food shops at the moment, as soon as that kind of thing starts to go viral, for want of a better word, sorry, it's a terrible word to be using at the moment, but
do you know what? I've told too many people about cauliflower rice, cauliflower mash. This week, I've not been able to get cauliflower once in my local supermarket.
Oh my goodness!
It's catching on. The cauliflower.
Okay. Well, I think your local supermarket is also my local supermarket, Steve, and I'm going to head up there for the NHS hour. So if there is any cauliflower, or leave
throw one over my fence. Yeah,
leave some at a socially appropriate distance outside your house tomorrow morning, Steve.
Thank you, Doctor. That will be great. Why do GPs don't tend to recommend supplements or treatments for a whole range of things? Sheila, let's leave that for Patrick Holford tomorrow. But you know, it's difficult with a GP on the line. I would just say that most GPs, unlike Dan, nutrition isn't something that you're trained a lot while you're in medical school. You've made it part of your mission to learn all about good nutrition. And I think, our NHS are absolutely amazing. But if I had one request moving forward, that would be, as you're all training doctors in the future, to put a bit more on prevention rather than cure, and maybe try and get in the curriculum more around healthy nutrition. A view on that, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and fundamentally, I think the NHS is set up as an illness service, not as a health service. It's really named kind of incorrectly, and yeah, I think we've got a huge amount of influence from food industries and the pharmaceutical industry that are feeding into that, which is causing huge problems for our health internationally from a chronic disease perspective, definitely.
Thank you for that. Diwakar Jain said, good morning, Steve. As here in India, drinking hot water mixed with a pinch of turmeric powder said to improve immune system. What else is suggestible? That is a really, really good point. So if you go and type in on the internet, the ORAC scale, ORAC, or if you download my book Fat and Furious from Amazon, from the Kindle, which we've dropped to £3.99 in this difficult time, with all the profits at our end going to the Trussell Trust. You'll see something called the ORAC scale, and the reason why they recommend you take turmeric, but I'll give you some more because you've just asked what else could you have. Cinnamon, oregano, turmeric, cocoa, in other words, chocolate, proper chocolate, cumin seeds, parsley, basil, curry powder, sage, thyme, black pepper. They're all rich on the ORAC scale, and the ORAC scale is a scale really of providing the body with antioxidants. So antioxidants boost the immune system. So turmeric, if you love turmeric, keep with that. But also, if you can get dark chocolate powder, try even that, because that can be, a lot of people love dark chocolate. Do you want to pick up on that at all, Dan? Or?
No, I think you've answered that one very well, Steve.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, lots of people saying, yeah, at the moment people don't want to burden the NHS, but back to Dan's point, if you're not well, you must go and do what you would
100%.
normally do. Garima says, I know Garima, she's one of our team out in India, we cook vegetables and eat fruits after wash with hot water or sometimes boil them to prevent from corona, but it can damage nutrients. So suggest required temperature wash with maintain nutrients. The thing here is, if you wash your vegetables, Garima, it's not as simple as that, because if it was that simple, the pesticides, the herbicides would just disappear. I would suggest maybe putting a splash of vinegar into the water, because it's one of the few things that can remove herbicides and pesticides. But the bigger question around corona is, if you're buying your fruit and veg from the supermarket, unless somebody's touched it in that supermarket that's got corona, I don't know whether that's, that's part of a problem there or not, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. This is a virus that can live on surfaces for it's a non-living particle, viruses are, but it can survive in its infective form for a period of time. We're still working out how much that is on hard surfaces, on how much that is on fabrics, how much that is on vegetables. So yeah, I mean, sure, there is the theoretical possibility if somebody has been fondling a lettuce and coughing on a lettuce in terms of in the supermarket, and then you're taking it there home and eating it in an unwashed form, sure, there's theoretical risk that is something that's going to be able to be transmitting your coronavirus. I think this is one of the reasons we are being advised to wash our hands when we come home. And I think, I can't say for sure whether washing vegetables is going to dilute the coronavirus enough to say that you're not going to be able to get it. So I don't know from that perspective.
And isn't that the big point here, that we don't know how long we've been told it stays on metal for quite a long time. So be careful when you fill your car with petrol, careful when you're putting in your PIN number, when you're checking out. That's why they've increased the contactless number. We know it stays on metal for a while, but they believe it stays on paper for a certain period. I suppose the thing is, we just don't know enough about it yet to know what that period of time is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just urge on the side of caution, really. I think washing vegetables and cooking them for a short period of time, a shorter period of time as you need to in order to get them to your desired kind of food level, really. So yeah,
I mean, I guess, and again, this is just a guess, it could be completely wrong, so don't take it too literally. Flash frying, I always recommend, to keep the keep nutrients rich on the inside. Boiling things just kills nutrients for fat and the benefits. So boiling is one of the first things you do. Steaming, well, one would assume steaming might kill off a virus, but again, we just don't know. But yeah, try and avoid boiling your vegetables, because that certainly does kill a lot of the goodness. Right, now with this, hundreds more questions, I think. I haven't scrolled all the way down, but let's get your good friend on, Dr. Anna Symonds, and if technology will allow us, let's do a three-way chat this morning. Good morning, Anna, how are you?
Good morning, Steve. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, we're okay. We've been playing with plastic foods with my children, trying to work out what's healthy and what's not this morning, and various different things. I've got loads of questions that have come in sort of via my team at work, and also from people sending things in. So if we can, should we just dive straight into questions this morning?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
And this is one Dan and I just touched on, but I'd love to get, because you're in fact, before we get going, tell everybody about yourself, what you do, and how they can get in contact with you post-show.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Anna Symonds. As you said, I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm director of Elysian Psychology. So we're a team of clinical psychologists. We work with people across the age span, so children, young people, adults, older adults. We're based in Nottinghamshire, but of course we're doing so much work online at the moment, just to support people wherever they may be. So if you Google Elysian Psychology or Google me, we come up. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere at the moment. So do get in touch with us.
And what pre-corona, what would a normal day look like for you? What, for those who don't know, what is a psychotherapist?
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist, which I guess is a form of psychotherapy, but psychotherapy has a different kind of training branch. So clinical psychologists, we're trained to work with in lots of different areas, people with learning disabilities, older adults, I say children. I did some training in the health sector as well. And really, it's just about helping people to understand their difficulties using psychological theory and frameworks. And then we take that theory and we adapt it for people clinically so that it makes sense and they can use what we know theoretically to guide them. I particularly do a lot of work around thoughts and changing our thoughts to change our feelings, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. That tends to be where I sit with that. But there's lots of other models as well that people use.
Well, that leads perfectly into my first question. Sorry, I got the job title wrong there. I'm totally dyslexic.
No, you're fine. There's overlap. Don't worry.
I'm trying to read a screen about 10 metres away. So, poor eyesight and dyslexia, a combination for disaster there. So this leads actually into what you just said. So do you feel the news can often fuel anxiety?
Yes, I mean, I have been watching you and Dan talk actually for the last sort of half an hour. Yeah, totally agree. And I think it's a one way that we can feel in control is to monitor our media use. I mean, ultimately, sometimes it's hard to do if you're just on Facebook and you're scrolling down the feed and somebody shared an article. But, it's hard to avoid. But I think if you really want to know what's going on in the world, maybe just ration that a little bit and say to yourself, right, I'll check in the morning or I'll check in the afternoon or whatever, and really try and minimize how much you're checking in on things. Because also, we don't really know which bits are genuine, do we? And even figures aren't maybe representative of what's going on, if you think about what's happening in care homes and things like that. So I think, yes, I totally agree that we need to be monitoring that and taking responsibility for checking in with the news. And I think the thing is, when you look at the wider world, it probably does feel a bit scary. So I think we have to focus on our own little bubbles of a world and kind of think, well, actually, my world is safe. I don't know anybody that's got it, or everybody's okay if that's the case for you. So it's not always helpful because we can feel very helpless, can't we, watching the news? And you think, what can I do? This is really difficult. So I think it can bring up a lot of feelings that are very then difficult to have to manage.
Yeah, a couple of things I'd like to pick up on there is, numbers, statistics, they can often be wrong. It depends how you report them, when you report them. All this trend of 2% down, 2% up, there's so many variables that they could be meaningless. And along that thought, if anybody's interested in how headlines and newspapers are constructed, this Saturday at 10 a.m. I've got Dr. Malcolm Kendrick on, who's written a book called Doctoring Data. And he's going to teach us on Saturday how to read behind those headlines so we get a better understanding of being able to spot fake news and spot things that are just written to create headlines, because sadly as well they found out that bad news, poor news, upsetting news sells more headlines, more papers, gets more engagement on TV than the happy stories. So I love the story, although there is one happy story at the moment that I absolutely love, which is that captain who's walking around his garden has made... Let's focus on that story. Let's lead the 10 o'clock news tonight, not with the death rate. Let's lead with that captain in his, what is he, 100 years old or 90 something, walked around his garden, raised £12 million. If we're going to focus on some news, let's focus on something happy. So I totally agree. Turn off your phones, try and avoid the news at the moment. We could all go to bed earlier tonight. What is it, 8 o'clock? We're doing the clap for the NHS. After the clap for the NHS, let's turn off social media, read a book. Reading a book helps us get a better night's sleep than having screen time late in the evening. And better night's sleep will reduce anxiety in the first place. Double positive.
Certainly my plans for this evening, Steve. Definitely, yeah. Get out there with the air horn.
Yeah.
Make as much, because I live in a village. That's the density of people is not like it is in a town and stuff. So I just try and make as much noise as possible and frighten people out of their houses with air horns if they're not already out clapping for the carers.
Well, if there's a southwesterly wind tonight, Dan, we might hear you in our village as well. There you
absolutely.
go. Great question coming up next for you, Anna. A bit different for us. We've got families, but even that comes with its challenges in isolation. But how can those in isolation alone, people alone, combat the loneliness?
It's very difficult, isn't it? I'm sure it does feel very lonely, and I think it's about, you talking about reaching out earlier, I think, with Dan, and I think it's about reaching out to people and maybe even structuring your day around it, thinking, right, I'm going to arrange to speak to this person at 10 o'clock and that person at 2 o'clock, and I'll have my lunch at 12 and I'll do this. It's about keeping your mind active as well, isn't it? Because what you don't want is to be sitting ruminating on lots of thoughts about how hard this feels and how sad this feels. I think you have to acknowledge those thoughts and those feelings if they come. Of course you do, because that's how you feel. But I think it's about kind of really trying to put things into your day that do make it feel like it's worthwhile and where you are connecting with people. I think all of us are getting slowly used to all of this video kind of contact, aren't we? And it's becoming sort of more and more normal. And of course, obviously, like you said before, go out for a walk, because you do see people, don't you? And I walk my little dog, I do see people, and people are quite keen to chat, actually. You notice that people do want to, they're keeping their distance, but they do want to engage you in a conversation. So even that, doing that, within the guidelines would probably release some of the feelings of loneliness, just seeing people in real 4 or 5D, I think.
Yeah. And there is sorry, Dan, go on.
Supposed to, yeah. I think the other thing to remember is, particularly in the UK, we've got this huge army of volunteers that has volunteered to help with the NHS, and part of the work they are doing is not only delivering medicines and supplies, they are actually getting on the phone to people who are wanting to just have a chat. So do have a look at the NHS website if that is something that is infecting people, because they are, massively scaled up that side of things, and then people are just, checking in for regular phone calls. Also, on a local basis, community initiatives, a lot of stuff that happened very, very early on was, we saw a big burgeoning of these local community groups who wanted to help people. There's so much good going on in the world at the moment, Steve. My village, I went out, we flyered every house in the village with a letter basically saying how to get in touch with the local COVID-19 helpline and stuff. And that is, yes, if you're self-isolating, people can go and get you food and things like that. But on there was, if you just need a chat, then just do let us know. And do you remember the little cards that were being sent out? People were putting those through people's doors as well. So maybe something to do is to check what's going on locally, check what's going on nationally, check what's come through your door as well, and reach out for those services.
So if you are yourself lonely, we're saying there's actually probably more support than ever, because we know that loneliness, while you're locked in, is going to have an impact on people. So there's more support. And those of us that have got the ability to contact others, we all should be making more of an effort to contact people we haven't spoken to for a while, especially if we think they're lonely people. I think that's great advice.
And also Age UK are having a big push with this at the moment, Steve, as well. So the Age UK website, I mean, you might want to get Jack to put that up on the screen at the moment, actually, or maybe in the comments down below. But there is a phone number. If you go to Age UK website, there is a special section about coronavirus and self-isolation and loneliness as well, and the Age UK advice line is on there. I don't know if that can be put up on the screen or something, Steve. That is definitely something to be there to be doing.
Now, I want to ask Anna a question that this has been, we've had quite a lot of different experts on around anxiety and so on and so forth, and I think I got this one wrong a little bit myself. Many people feel like they must achieve something in lockdown, learn a language, an instrument, decorate the house, etc. What would you suggest? And the reason I'm going to, that's a question that's come in, but I think the reason somebody's asking that is we've had different opinions from experts that if you are too hard on yourself trying to achieve stuff, then that can make you more anxious. But also if you're the sort of person that's happy to go and achieve stuff, then go and do it, because filling your time is probably the best thing you can do. Talk to us about that feeling, Anna, of probably coming down too hard on yourself and trying, sort of forcing yourself to achieve things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to individual difference, doesn't it, and personality type. So some people are very driven people. Probably both you and Dan are very driven people, and myself to a certain extent. So, if you're a driven kind of person and you're used to being busy all the time, having a big amount of time where you don't have things to do can leave us feeling very sort of purposeless. Appreciate Dan and I are both probably quite busy, more busy than usual with the state of the external world. But I think if you're that kind of person where you're used to being on the go, it's very hard just to stop that and just to sit. We almost get addicted to the adrenaline, don't we, of kind of being on the go all the time. So to suddenly then, if you have to stop for some people, that actually is going to be very difficult. And those are the kind of people that might benefit from, needing to keep pushing themselves or doing something for growth. But there's going to be other people who, especially the people that are struggling with this, or the people that perhaps really do need a break, where it's okay not to do anything. This is a time where we can do lots of emotional processing. And I know for a lot of friends and clients that I speak to, a lot of that psychological emotional processing has started already, sometimes about events that happened a couple of years ago, and suddenly they're thinking about them, they're needing to process them, and actually giving yourself the time and the space to actually sit with those really uncomfortable, painful feelings is really important, because when else do we get time to do it if we're busy, really? So I think it just depends on you as a person, and we all have to individually judge it. Of course, if you're sitting around and you're bored, then yes, maybe, and you're thinking, I'm used to being on the go, I need to do something, then please do something. If you're sitting there thinking, you know what, I don't feel like doing anything, my advice would be, well, don't then. Go easy on yourself. Don't push yourself. If you don't feel like it, don't. The world's going to rev back up again, and you will have to push yourself. If this is a time where you don't feel like you want to do anything and you can not do anything, then go with it, because we very rarely get this amount of time just to go easy on ourselves. And that might not fit easily. That's not your character style, like I say. But my advice would be just to go with it, and don't worry about what anybody else is doing either. We do tend to worry about everybody else being, what are they doing, what they're achieving, what are they doing? Oh, it doesn't matter. Just do whatever feels right for you. Nobody's judging you at this time. Nobody really knows what we're up to anyway, because we're not in the world comparing ourselves. So do what feels right for you would be my advice.
Such great advice. That is such great advice, Anna, because we're all different, aren't we? And I've always said that comparison is the theft of happiness. So if you keep comparing yourself to others, Johnny's learnt to speak French in 3 weeks in lockdown.
Great for Johnny.
Good I speak to Johnny. Other people that might be workaholics, and if they're at home right now, maybe you just need that time to chill out. So we're all different.
But guilt-free, I think. Just do it and not feel guilty and enjoy it. And, like I say, sometimes it might bring the emotional processing and the pain with it, or sometimes just relax. We're so bad at relaxing, aren't we? I think particularly my generation, I feel like we're always on the go all the time, and we don't actually know how to relax, and we're having to retrain ourselves to go, this is okay that I'm watching this box set, or this is okay that I've sat in the garden for a bit. I know I really struggle with that because I'm on the go all the time. So it's a good chance to retrain your brain not to be fueled by this adrenaline, this cortisol, this stress all the time, because we lead such busy lives normally.
Yeah, and it's, for those of us that are on the go all the time, a little bit of downtime is probably really good for our health, isn't it? Like you say, cut down on that adrenaline for a while and cut down on the cortisol, and just try and relax a little bit. Shall we turn to the screen and answer some questions?
Okay.
So Ritesh Jain said, "Hi Steve, I'm in India." And if people are wondering why we get lots of people from India asking questions, most of my workforce are in India, and they love to self-educate, which is great. Hi Steve, come from India. It seems India is on an eating binge. People have become master chefs and eating all the wrong kinds of food. Can you give us advice? What is the right food while we're avoiding meat? I mean, that's a long question there. What I would say, Ritesh, is, and I spend a lot of time in India, the biggest problem, I see lots of my friends now getting diabetes in India because they're now mixing a lot of traditional foods with a lot of packaged food, and then the packaged food has upset the balance of food. Use this time, Ritesh, to go back to maybe what your families were eating 50, 60 years ago. Look for whole foods, natural foods. Try and do everything you can to avoid the packaged foods. And if you can cut down on the chapatis, on the naan breads, and cut down on the processed carbs, that'd be my bit of advice. Anna, do you want to comment on maybe food that people should be eating at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist or trained, I've got the knowledge that you and Dan have, but I think what is happening is that a lot of people might be doing a lot of emotional eating, and I think just be aware of that. If we're bored, we tend to reach for the biscuits, don't we, and that sort of thing. And I guess from an emotional level, we're going to see lots of people kind of emotionally eating or restricting, actually, if they're finding things hard. So I think try not to change your habits too much, but I guess if we're sedentary, we're going to find that maybe we crave that sugar more, I don't know, or we're not going to burn it off, are we? So I guess there's going to be, being mindful of eating is hugely important.
Absolutely.
I certainly think from my group, Steve, the groups the weight loss groups that I run, the stress of everything, 2 or 3 weeks ago really, was there derailed quite a lot of people's best held diet plans and stuff like that, really. And so stress has an enormous impact on eating. And I think, we certainly saw this in the few weeks. People went out and they panic bought a lot of food, and so there was a lot of eating going on and stuff. But I think, it's about channeling that into positive. Number one, avoid the sugar. Okay. If you're trying to, avoid the sugar from processed foods, avoid the sugar from that. And I think that's the most damaging thing we can do. And you get into that cycle of, snacking and stuff that sugar brings on. So I definitely recommend that trying to, whatever you're cooking at home is going to be better than processed food, but try to avoid adding lots of sugar and stuff into your food as well.
That's great advice. Thank you very much indeed. Marvellous. I have a picture of my dessert I made following your advice so far, but don't know how to send it to you. It has natural yogurt, walnuts, dark chocolate chips, berries. That's fantastic, marvellous. Send us a picture. If you go to Facebook and you go to Primal Living, put a picture on there, and we would love to see it. Yeah, natural dark chocolate, walnuts, natural yogurt. That is a good dessert. That is
Forget the picture. Send us a sample.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we'll set up a kitchen in our garden, and you can come and cook for us. That'll be fantastic. Because that sounds a bit, doesn't it, Jack? About one of my daughters, Lily, does that quite a lot.
Oh yeah.
That's something very similar. Really healthy, really healthy. Julia Gaunt. Hi, Stephen Crew. Great show. Learning the adaptation so much. I have the Brittany Sick and the cookbook. What else is in the Fast and Furious book? Keep up the good work. So Julie's got my previous book. She said, why should I get the latest one? Well, get the latest one because, first of all, if you download it from Amazon, all the profits go to the Trussell Trust. So it's completely free. I think the big revelation in this one is all the sugar charts from Dr. David Unwin, which teaches us all different food types, what that turns into sugar inside the body. And that for me was a complete revelation. For example, I used to believe that baked potatoes were a healthy option. The other thing in here, this is with the help of Dan and lots of other doctors. It's there's loads of advice in there. So I'm just the middleman in this book, pulling all together the advice from various people. And there's a lot around anxiety and depression and how to be happy from Dr. Robert Lustig. So there's a few things in there that are a bit different. Haley says, is a low carb diet sustainable for people who go to the gym and do strength training? Well, I don't know what Anna's routine is. She looks very healthy. I can tell you, Haley, that both Dan and I are very low carb, and we both do a lot of strength training, and it kind of works for us, Dan.
Yeah, I think certainly I wouldn't want to confuse what would work for a competitive athlete necessarily with what works for the average person. And it depends what your goals are in the gym. My goals are not to be able to lift the biggest weights all the time. But, occasionally that does, we want to get PBs to see our own progress and stuff. But, the needs of a competitive athlete who are performing at the Olympics whenever they get rescheduled to are necessarily different from the average person who's just trying to stay healthy. But yeah, in terms of someone who just wants to stay healthy on a day-to-day basis, absolutely, low carb is a sustainable option.
Thank you very much. Jatin has asked me, what do I think will happen to the jewellery market after Corona? We'll always wear jewellery, Jatin, there is no problem there. Anand says, does cooking kill the coronavirus? We've had that come up a couple of times today. Are foods eaten raw, like fruits and vegetables, safe? I mean, the answer is we don't know. We don't know how long this thing stays on fruit and veg. My guess would be the only danger is if somebody has touched that apple in the supermarket before you've gone and bought it. My guess would be it's only if you eat it, quickly afterwards. If it's stayed in your home for a period, I don't fully understand this virus, but knowing what I know about viruses, the virus can't last indefinitely on a surface.
No, No, they tend to degrade. I mean, viruses are not a non-living particle, so yeah, they the DNA and the RNA in those, the genetic material that causes them to be infective, it degrades over time, and the actual viral load, if you like, and the infectivity will decrease. But the time at which the coronavirus takes to degrade on those surfaces, first of all, would depend on how much was on there in the first place. Has somebody literally coughed onto this, or have they just touched it? Well, there's going to be two different loads in terms of those. I mean, this is one of the important things why we're saying for people to self-isolate. If they're symptomatic and they're coughing, they shouldn't be going into the supermarket at all. But I appreciate that is we are not. This is the UK perspective. We've actually got a lot of people watching from India at the moment. Yeah. I don't know what the situation is where you are. It seems sensible to wash your food in clean water or stuff, especially if you're eating the skins of fruits and things like that, and then potentially cooking other stuff as well. So I don't know if it's completely safe that way, though.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because if we overcook, we lose the nutrition. If we lose the nutrition, our immune system is not going to be as strong, but there is a danger that it might be on the surface of the food. What I will say is, if you're in India, get vinegar, because we know from what the research we did in my company that if you get your fruit and veg into a bowl, put some vinegar in, certainly for pesticides, herbicides, and sort of chemical fertilizers, the use of vinegar helps get it off the surface of your foods. But again, we don't know whether that's going to be the case with the virus. Let's take one last question. Will taking a glucomannan supplement break my fast? I would say, I'm not going to answer that one. What I would say is, bottom left of the screen here, Dr. Dan Maggs has a brilliant article on YouTube of what constitutes as breaking a fast. And there are so many different opinions as what constitutes as breaking a fast that go and watch Dr. Dan's clip on YouTube and work that one out yourself. Right. We're going to call that at a close because it is just gone past 11 o'clock. Now, both of you tonight, at what time are you doing a second sort of a live one yourself?
Pop that up on the screen, Steve. Yeah, tonight, myself and Anna are doing a video live call on YouTube over on my YouTube channel, which is all about dealing with uncertainty. Basically, I'm going to be interviewing Anna in quite a lot more depth about that topic. So yeah, it's going to be a really good session, which is going to start bang on 7 o'clock UK time this evening over on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Dr. Dan Maggs, which is just literally as it's spelled on the screen there. Okay, it's going to go on definitely no longer than an hour, because at 8 o'clock we have to go out and we have to clap for carers this evening. Okay, so it will definitely not be going on any longer than an hour, just so you're off the hook there, Anna. Okay.
Well, thank you both for coming on today. You are all doing
Steve.
An amazing job. Thanks for being so honest and open with all the questions. And keep doing what you're doing. We're all so proud of you, and we will, as a family, be outdoor hitting pots and pans at 8 p.m. this evening, thanking all our brilliant doctors across the UK. And we're great, because we don't know how long this lockdown is. At some point, I'm going to run out of doctor friends. It'd be nice if you could both come back on at some time in the future.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much.
Welcome. Thank you, Anna. That was the brilliant Dr. Dan Maggs and the brilliant Dr. Anna, who a few weeks ago I had never met Anna before. She's brilliant. She's Dr. Anna Symonds. Remember what this is about. It's about getting the education, but also if you can make a donation to the Trussell Trust, which is the food who support 1,200 food banks across the UK, that would be amazing. We're trying to raise £100,000 because more than ever, we've got people going hungry in the UK, and we need to try a little bit to help. Or you can donate with that way, I always get it wrong, with the text. Thank you again for watching. We'll be back as always at 10, well, it seems to be always at the moment, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Stay safe, look after your family, get out in the sunshine, get some vitamin D, and tomorrow we'll see you here again.